Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaRevelis and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link down in the description to the page, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augmented Experience podcast. My name is Joshua Revelis. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down with fellow enthusiasts to talk about what's going on in the technology, business, and gaming world. I hope you guys enjoy. Alright everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Revelis. I am your host as usual, and obviously this is a Friday episode because you guys are listening. Well, obviously. I just want to get a few things out of the way before we go into the episode. First thing I want to do is thank you guys so much for Wednesday's episode. Obviously, I posted on the Instagram page that we had a huge amount of downloads for that episode, which is crazy. So I thank you guys so much for that. That was it caught me by surprise because usually there's not a lot of downloads right off the bat, but the fact that this one had a huge amount of downloads right off the bat was incredible, and I thank you guys so much for that. Very humbled by that. Overall, everything's been going good. Obviously, this is episode 41, so 9 more episodes until the episode 50 special. So hard at work at getting all the stuff ready for that, because obviously we have a good amount of changes coming. Obviously, the main one you guys voted on a long time ago, so I'm going to let you guys see how that goes, and I might probably put a sneak peek of what we're working on soon on the Instagram page. So obviously, Friday's episode, and you guys voted. We're going to be talking about the Nintendo Switch Lite. This is something that's a little bit interesting to me, especially when it comes to the Nintendo Switch Lite, because as somebody that owns a Switch, when the Switch was initially announced back in 2017, I was going ape for it because I was like, this is crazy, this looks awesome, and I want this. And overall, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I didn't get my Switch until I graduated from high school in 2018. That's when I got the Switch originally as a graduation gift. It's still one of my favorite consoles to play on. Personally, I have a lot of games on it. A lot of my games are like Mario Kart or Mario Tennis Aces or Smash or like games like that. Splatoon 2. My friend Darius gave me that one. He gave me the digital code and we play that. Obviously I have my Pro controller and everything. So overall, the Switch is definitely one of my favorite consoles I own. Obviously my Xbox, in terms of game library, still has the biggest library that I own, clearly. And overall, when I saw the whole announcement for the Nintendo Switch Lite, initially when I saw it, my mind was like, okay, I can get where this is going. You know, it makes sense. Obviously, the main thing that came to my mind was RP the 3DS, because essentially it almost seems like that's what it's doing, even though Nintendo hasn't really come out and stated that it's the end of the 3DS, but that's a whole nother topic. But overall, with the Nintendo Switch Lite, I was very pleased with how it was presented and what it's targeting specifically. The market specifically is what it's targeting. And obviously, it's doubling down on the idea that it's one of the best handhelds you can have. And I agree. I think in terms of what you're getting for the price too, which we'll talk about all that, but I think the main thing I want to talk about with this episode with the Nintendo Switch Lite is how is this going to affect the Switch sales, especially after the most recent news that came out yesterday? And I'd say overall, how does this affect the 3DS in general? Because I think the main thing that people want me to talk about is, like, does this kill the 3DS? And I'm going to go into that. So first I want to talk about the whole, what is the Nintendo Switch Lite? Like, what is it specifically? What is its market demographic specifically? Like, who is it targeting? And, you know, talk about like what benefits and what drawbacks come with having the Nintendo Switch Lite compared to the normal Switch. So let's go into the specs a little bit. So obviously it's going to be handheld only. So just like the original Switch, it has handheld, but it also has TV mode, and it also has tablet mode, or tabletop mode. I call it tablet mode, but tabletop mode is it has a little kickstand. Obviously this is only handheld, so it doesn't have a kickstand because it's all in one together. Obviously another drawback would be that it doesn't have Joy-Cons. Well, technically it does, but the Joy-Cons are, you know, stuck on the main console itself, so they're not going to be removed. So that means you are losing features like HD rumble and IR motion camera. So that means if you're going to play games like 1-2 Switch or anything that requires like, HD rumble, IR motion cameras, then, you're going to have a separate pair of Joy-Cons. Obviously, it's not going to work on a dock no matter what. It won't work on a dock. And what's interesting is that when you look at the dimensions and you look at the weight and even the screen size, it is different by a good amount. So in the original Switch, it says that its dimensions were 4 inches high, 9.4 inches long, and then 0.55 inches deep with the Joy-Cons attached. And then the Switch Lite is 3.6 inches high, 8.2 inches long, and still keeps the 0.55 deep. So it is obviously, surprisingly, it's less than 0.4 inches smaller. And then in terms of long, it's more than, it loses like a whole inch. So pretty crazy, because I'm assuming that's also because it's all in one piece and you don't have like, it seems like I'd say that the original Switch is a little bit flimsy, but that makes sense. And then the screen and even the pounds too. And I think this is probably also because of the Joy-Cons. The original weighed about 0.88 pounds, while the new one, the Switch Lite, is going to be 0.61. And then the screen is going to be smaller as well. So instead of a 6.2 touchscreen on the original Switch, it's going to be 5.5 inches. And obviously, as we all know, it's going to be 720p capped out, same way with the original Switch in handheld mode. But you are going to get, which I'd arguably say the biggest improvement, or not really big, but at least like battery life improvement, yes. It is crazy on how much the battery life is going to, I'm not going to say crazy, but at least it does make sense that it's going to improve battery life. So the Switch Lite naturally says approximately 3 to 7 hours on a full charge, compared to the original Switch in handheld was 2.5 to 6.5 hours. And obviously uses the main benchmark it uses is Breath of the Wild is the most graphic intensive game they have on there. On the original Switch, it says you can approximately get 3 hours on Breath of the Wild, and with the Switch Lite, you can get up to approximately 4 hours on the Switch Lite. So overall, battery improvement didn't really improve the battery that much. I mainly believe it's because they didn't put the new Integra chips inside of them. They weren't I think the old Switch has a 14 nanometer processor, while we'll talk about it soon, but both of them are assumedly using a 14 nanometer processor, especially because, or at least the Lite might be using maybe a smaller version, or actually like maybe something not 14 nanometers, but something a little bit more efficient. But still, it's barely an improvement in battery life. Breath of the Wild improvement is still good. Clearly an hour extra on Breath of the Wild would be great. But the main contention that people have with the Switch Lite is it actually has a D-pad. It does not have the directional buttons that are on the Joy-Con, on the left Joy-Con on your Switch, the original one. It actually has a D-pad. And a lot of people were pissed about this because they were like, the original Switch should have had the Nintendo D-pads, because Nintendo makes incredible D-pads. They are known in the industry as legendary D-pads because of how good they are. Prime examples like the Game Boys, the DSs, like those D-pads are iconic on how good they are in terms of D-pads. And they make the best D-pads ever. Like Sony and Microsoft ain't got nothing on those D-pads. Sony uses directional buttons. They don't actually have a some of them do. Take that back. But I know the Xbox obviously has a D-pad. It's still a decent D-pad, but it's not like the Switches or Nintendo's D-pads in general are just incredible. And people were surprised that they actually put a D-pad on the Switch Lite, because people were like, oh god, they're gonna put the directional buttons again. And they were like, oh man, that's crazy. So that was a huge shock, and I know a lot of people are happy yet pissed at the same time, because they're like, the original Switch didn't have a D-pad and we wanted it, and then the Switch Lite has one and we're going crazy because it does. But that also led to like the debate that people were having, where is the 3DS dead? And my take on it specifically, when it comes to the DS, especially as somebody that owned a 3DS for a long time, and I had the original DS, and I had a Game Boy SP, do I believe the 3DS is dead at this point? I'd say yes. We know the end. I'm gonna say yes. We know the end of the line is coming. We know that they're being very slow in updating the software and everything. Like, they barely just got a new software patch. Like, I think the DS, if I remember correctly, somebody was talking about it, that they recently got their patch in May, and they didn't get a patch in the last patch before the one in May was in December. So the writing's on the wall at this point. Nintendo just doesn't want to say that the 3DS is dead. But it kind of is. But it's also kind of interesting because the 3DS, as old as it is, it has an incredible library of games. Like, there is a plethora of games on there. Like, I would personally recommend. That's why they still sell the 2DS. But like the 2DS XL and everything is still, I'd say it was overall the best value for the money. Like the new 3DS XL, I had one. I had the Hyrule Warriors edition. But I'd admit, like, they didn't really utilize the 3D anymore. It was just a gimmick, so people just bought the 2DS XL, which clearly I think it helped a little bit, but the writing was on the wall. But but I'd say the DS's library is vast, and it's so incredible on how much games the DS really has. Like 3DS games, obviously, but there's also the DS games as well. And the 3DS specifically has an incredible library, huge of games. So if you could personally find one, say offhand, someone selling it for cheap, and they sell a good amount of games, I would buy it as a portable system. Yeah, like, obviously, if you want to play the more modern games, you want to play a little bit nicer looking games, then obviously the Switch Lite is for you, because it's clearly going to get more performance out of it, really. So that's my take on it. I'm probably eventually going to do a topic discussing specifically the 3DS, because I think that's an appropriate topic. But regarding the Switch Lite, yes, I do believe it's definitely going to kill the 3DS. It's definitely putting the nail in the coffin. It definitely is. It's putting another nail in the coffin. But here's something that's interesting. And this is something a lot of people were talking about yesterday, because I was at the store yesterday when this happened. There is another Switch coming out, and it will have improved battery life because it's using a 10 nanometer chip. And on the Nintendo website, people thought, oh, no, this is all BS. It's all rumors. And no, Nintendo actually put it on the website that there is a new model coming in August. And the way you'll be able to tell is because of the packaging. If you remember the original Switch packaging, it was the Switch and a white background. The new Nintendo Switch is going to have the red background. So that's how you know it's one of the newer ones. And the main benefit with the newer ones, besides the 10 nanometer chip, is the battery life is drastically improved. Like, this slaughters both the original and the Switch Lite in battery life, because the new Switch that's coming out in August is going to have 4.5 to 9 hours of battery life. And it says on Breath of the Wild you can get approximately 5.5 hours of battery life. So, huge improvement for battery life. Obviously, a lot of people are pissed because, I get it. When the Switch initially came out in 2017, we didn't have this chip then, and I know it's very hard, especially for these Integra chips, to get them down that small. But, bro, this pisses a lot of people off. But this also puts Nintendo in an interesting spot as well. Think about it. If the main selling point of the Switch Lite is supposed to be its handheld mode and improved battery life, why would you release another Switch that can do dock, can do tablet mode, really, I'm going to call it that, and handheld, and still have better battery life? And not just a little bit better, like, we're talking about like an extra 2 hours extra. Like, what's Nintendo thinking on this one? Obviously, I think for the price point, like, the new Switch is going to be, the new one that's coming out in August is still going to be the original $299.99. And obviously the Switch Lite is going to be $199.99. So, where does this really put Nintendo? Because they're going to have 3 Switches on the market. Obviously, I do believe they're going to stop selling the original Switch, the one with the white background, and only sell the newer one and the Switch Lite. That's what I think is going to happen. So, for those of us that have a Switch right now, good for you. And, for anybody that doesn't, this is where I'm going to kick in and probably help you narrow down the field on what you really want. So, when we think about the Switch, you have to really think about what do you want and what are you going to use it for. Based on what I've seen, a lot of people love using the Switch in handheld mode more than docked mode. Obviously, a lot of us are waiting for a Switch Pro, which would improve the docked mode because we obviously want better graphics and everything. We want better frame rates. That's what we want. And do I believe the Switch Pro is happening? Yes, I do. The fact that the rumors were true that we were going to get a budget Switch, a handheld-only Switch, was accurate. So I do believe a Switch Pro is coming. Probably not this year. Probably at 2020 at best. But when it comes to the Switch Lite, the Switch Lite is going to be an interesting predicament. Especially because for $100 more, you would get better battery life. But also that comes down to the whole, what do you want to compromise in and everything. But I think for an all-in-one, I think the Switch Lite is incredible for an all-in-one. For what it offers, and since the majority of people primarily use it in handheld mode more than docked, it makes sense to buy a Switch Lite. Like, you know, if you're already a Switch owner, maybe I wouldn't buy it. Like, I would hold off personally. I would hold off and probably get a Switch Pro when it happens. But I would hold off. But if you are a new person and say it, like, because we're coming around Christmas time, so Christmas is coming. I believe this is going to be a phenomenal Christmas gift for this holiday season. I think it's easily going to be the holiday seller. There's going to be a lot of kids wanting a Switch, and their parents are like, hey, we can get them a handheld Switch for $200, pretty rugged, you know. It's not going to break, like the Joy-Cons aren't going to break off like the original in handheld mode, which a lot of people were freaked out about. And it's $200, and there's already a lot of games available, so it makes it so much easier because that extra $100 you can buy a game with it, and depending on what they even do for Black Friday, they might even bundle it with a game. So my opinion is the Switch Lite is a great pickup for new Switch owners. It is a great pickup if you only want to use it in handheld and you want a portable console. But some people say, oh, what about mobile phones? Like, okay, I'm going to go into this a little bit just really quickly. Mobile phones will never replace game consoles. Let's be honest with ourselves. Like, I get it. Mobile phones can be pretty powerful and everything, but it's like when Huawei was trying to say that, oh, the Huawei Mate X, or the big one that came out with the Mate, I believe it was the Mate 20 Pro. Yeah, it's the one. It's one of the extra phones that came out. They were saying, oh, this can outperform the Nintendo Switch. I'm like, no, you cannot. That friggin' phone is not going to be able to run any high-end game at all. Like, it won't. It's barely going to run them. So the Switch is definitely the best mobile, I'd say mobile handheld, or really handheld on the market right now. It's the main flagship handheld because obviously that's what Nintendo always had a backup. And this is where a lot of people seem to tend to forget a little bit with the 3DS. And I know I keep going back to it, but I think it coincides very well because of where these two, the Switch Lite and the 3DS, really stand, because I almost view it as a passing of the torch. Like, this is the next evolution that they wanted to go in. And for me personally, the way this was obvious that the 3DS was going to die was with Pokemon coming to the Switch. That was the prime example that we knew it was going to be over pretty soon. We knew it was. And because of that, that's why it made sense that the Switch Lite was going to come out, because you want a handheld that people can play. Because I think I made the joke too, was this is a Pokemon machine. Like, this thing is meant to play Pokemon. Like, it's meant to go on the go. Like, people love play. That's what people did with Pokemon on 3DS, is they would take it on the go. Like, I remember every time I would be on a bus and I would have Pokemon in, and my friends would bring their 3DS, and we would just battle. Or we would buy Smash for the 3DS when, like, Smash 4 was on the 3DS, and we would all play together on the bus ride to the games and everything. And it was crazy. It was fun. So that's where I think the Switch Lite is going to stand, because if you think about it, it's also in the same price point as the original 3DS XL. It's $199. That's why I said I view this as a passing of the torch. And like I said, I will go more into this later on, but the Switch Lite, to me, for new Switch owners and for somebody looking to fill that void in the handheld market, the Switch Lite is for you. The Switch has a good library right now. They keep expanding on it. We have a lot of games coming. Obviously, Pokemon's coming this year. Obviously, yes. Very controversial game, clearly, with the whole situation that's going on. We talked about it on the State of Pokemon episode. You should probably go give that a listen. I know, shameless plug, but it's my show. Well, yeah, true. But I think overall, The Switch Lite is great. There are downsides to it though, and this really depends on what you want to use it for. Like this whole argument revolves around what do you need this thing to do, and a lot of people seem to be forgetting that there are compromises with it. It isn't perfect. Yes, you get a little bit better battery life, but you are losing some of those flagship features. Like, you know, you can't put it in dock mode. You can't like prop it up on a table. You know, you can't have removable Joy-Cons, so you can't share this. So this is meant to be a personal console, or handheld really. And obviously you lose HD rumble, you lose all these like quote unquote flagship features. And for some people, they're fine with it, but some people they are not. So I think this really depends on where you want to place yourself, really, because if you think about it, with the new Switch coming out, it makes almost zero sense to buy the Switch Lite as a handheld when technically the new Switch that's coming out in August, you're going to get better battery life, and you could just put a case on it, and there you go. That's your handheld. And you could still keep all your removable Joy-Cons to share with people and everything. But obviously, everybody's going to be like, what about the D-pad? The D-pad, yes, that is definitely going to be a talking point for a while, because Nintendo easily could have put the D-pad on the Switch, but they decided not to and put it for the Switch Lite. I think that was dumb. Personally, I think that was a horrible idea. That was stupid, and it's gonna piss people off. Clearly, a lot of people are pissed. If you see a lot of Nintendo YouTubers, they're pissed about it. Personally, I would be too. But it's also interesting. And also another factor with the Switch Lite is that it's going to have multiple colors, which I get it. Like, we had special editions for the Switch. We had the Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee one. We had the Monster Hunter one. We had the Diablo one. We had the I forgot what that other one is. We had the Smash Bros one that was very popular. We had a lot of special editions. We had obviously the Fortnite bundle, but that's dumb. But we had a lot of special editions. But they didn't... they changed how the Switch looked. But this one, for the Switch Lite, it's going to have actual multiple colors. And they're even going to make a Pokemon one, which is kind of the reason why I said this is going to be a Pokemon machine. Obviously, its main colors are yellow, turquoise, and gray. Gray. I just like how they say it in the Japanese commercial. Gray. But... okay, I'm going to say this now. It's not racist. I'm just saying it was funny how they said it. But overall, very interesting that they're going to go with multiple color palettes. I do see a lot of special editions coming. Clearly, I think if we're doing handheld, we might end up getting a Skyrim edition, maybe. I'm assuming we should. That'd be pretty awesome to see that. I would buy that. Obviously, the Sword and Shield one looks phenomenal and how beautiful it looks with the light gray, the legendaries on the back, like red and blue buttons. Oh, so good. But they always do that. They always make a Pokemon version of the 3DS. Like, when the 3DS came out, there was always a Pokemon version for the game. There was always one. And that's what I'm saying, is this is pretty much the predecessor of the 3DS. That's what I'm saying. They're making it so obvious. It's not even funny at this point. But overall, the Switch Lite, for the market that it is targeting, aka people that are either new Switch owners or want a handheld console, like after the 3DS, they decided, hey, we want to upgrade and everything, then yeah, I think the Switch Lite is perfect for them. It's a great price point. $200 is a great. I do believe this will be the holiday seller of the year. I will put my neck out there and I will say, yes, this will be the best-selling console that will be gifted during this holiday season, because it makes sense. Like, parents went out and bought the 3DS, or really the original DS when it came out, and the 3DS too, when it came out, because people were like, hey, this is really cool, and kids like this stuff. So, I'm excited for the Switch Lite. I might not pick one up. I personally mainly use my Switch in dock mode anyways. But if I ever decided that I wanted to go handheld, I might pick up a Switch Lite, personally. But I think overall, it's a great value for the money. It's a great addition to the Switch lineup. They definitely needed it. And I think for sure, as we talk about it in a future episode with the whole Nintendo 3DS and everything, yes, this is a great predecessor to the 3DS, and I hope that big things come, because obviously it's big improvements. It's definitely more powerful than the 3DS. It's going to get the flagship game, so there is no, separation in terms of who's getting what game and everything like that, because that was always the biggest issue with the 3DS and the home console, was not getting the same games. Like, the main thing was, the Switch or when the 3DS and the Wii U were around, like both would get smashed, but then one would get Mario Kart 8 and the other one would get Mario Kart 7, and then the other one would get, say, Pokemon, and the other one wouldn't. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, there was there's disconnect that was there. So now that they're able to have a handheld Switch, they're able to keep the whole, I'd say, ecosystem integrated so that nobody's missing out on a game. So everybody's going to be able to have the same game. The only difference is some people are going to play it at a better, 1080p compared to 720p. But some people, if they want to take a handheld, they get better battery life. So, there are give and takes. I think, yeah, there's a lot of benefits and there's a lot of drawbacks. But I think the pros outweigh the cons in this scenario. Especially because of the fact that it has a D-pad too. Like, that is crazy that this thing has a D-pad. The D-pads on Nintendo are so comfortable and they're so good. Very accurate too. That's why people like them. But overall, very excited for the Switch Lite. Let me know if you guys are excited. I'll probably put a poll on the Instagram page asking if you guys are actually going to buy a Switch Lite, or are you going to probably if you're going to buy one. Like, personally, if I had the option, if I was a new Switch owner, I would buy one. It's definitely the best time to buy one. Overall, but yeah, that's my take on it. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I know obviously this week was a very exciting week. Obviously, with everybody was very interested in the AMD GPU stuff, and then obviously the Switch Lite, like a lot of big news stories coming out, and obviously we have new stories lined up for next week as well. And obviously, yeah, episode 50 special is coming up soon, so obviously I'm hard at work on my end, getting everything ready and getting all the surprises done. So I hope you guys keep coming back and listening. Thank you guys so much for everything. Like I said, you guys are crazy for what you did yesterday, for all those downloads. I appreciate it so much. I thank you guys for your time. I love you guys to death. Have yourselves a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye, guys.